Hello, everybody, and welcome to another session of Conversations with Geoff. So happy to be here today. Beautiful Tuesday, last week of September, right? I mean, business owners, Q3 is almost over, so keep pushing, baby. If you're struggling to get through it, don't give up. Keep stepping forward. And Q4, anything about Q4 it can go your way still. We still have time. So don't give up. Stay focused on what's coming your way, and let's go finish 2023 on fire. That's right. I'm reminding myself too, right? Because there's a lot of pieces that I have to settle in. So anyway, I wanted to just have that little commercial around business and welcome everyone to another episode of Conversations with Geoff. Man, I was just chatting with our guest coming up, and she's an awesome young lady, and you're going to find just the humility and the grace and the willingness to share just is so powerful. So make sure you're already got your feet up, turn off all your distractions, no noise, so you can focus on what she has to deliver, especially you moms out there, and you fellas out there need to hear from a female perspective how things are, because oftentimes we take things for granted. Oftentimes we miss the signs as men. Oftentimes we just assume everything is all right because our women are so powerful. But we need to hear what she's got to say, right? And so, but anyway, I just wanted to just, as always, before we get started, show you a little bit about me, right? and make sure my team knows and hears me that thank you guys for pushing this through here in Q3 for us. You've been doing a tremendous job, and we couldn't be here without you. So thank you. And all you folks that have been following us. I'm a little scattered back and forth today. That's how I am sometimes. I'll settle down in a minute, right? I got some crazy stuff going on, but I wanted to just share a story or experience I had earlier. I think was it yesterday? Yeah, right. Because we talk about stinking thinking in this community. We talk about stinking thinking in all areas of our lives, right? So I'm sitting here. It was a beautiful day, right? I got off to a great start. And many may know that, I'm in recovery now with the prostate surgery, 2 months into it, and getting better. And I'm doing some physical therapy and the physical therapy is a little different, but it adds another hour to my day. And I'm doing it like I'm supposed to and a little more because that's how I'm wired. And I had just done it that day, right? And here's listen to me when I say this. All of a sudden, I started thinking about tomorrow morning, and then, man, that I had to get up. This is me. I had to rather than I choose to get up. You hear the message? I'm talking to myself, right? And I just started going down this rabbit hole about how whiny it was. This stuff happens to me too, right? And that's why it's so important for me to show up here and talk about it, because the stinking thinking shows up. But I remember I was sitting in the car. People probably thought I was crazy. I was like, stop it. Not today, man. Get out of my way. Right? I just have these little fits sometimes because one of my mentors talks about saying cancel, right? The way you say something wrong, you cancel it. And there's power in that word, man. So I stopped that and I was aware of it. We talk about that a lot in this community. And then number two, I took a pause because I didn't want to ruin the moment like it happens sometimes. And then number three, I began to replace it with the gratitude, right? Man, there are people in my situation that don't have the ability to do what I'm doing in recovery, right? I mean, their outcome isn't as optimistic as mine. I mean, there's so many things I could replace it with. So I'm here to tell you, it's a process and we have to continue doing it, and it works, right? And for those of you that don't know me, my name is Geoff Tyson, and I'm known as the Comeback King. And I got that name from folks that I've shared with over the last 30 plus years and have seen me through my lifetime face adversity and keep showing up, face setbacks and keep showing up with resilience and resistance to stopping, right? So I'm no different than you are around that. And our goal and our purpose for conversations with Geoff is one, make you aware, write it down. Number one is make you aware of the chatter you're having with yourself, right? And then number two, if it's thinking, hit the pause button. Simple stuff. Hit that pause button like I did yesterday, and then replace it, whatever that subject was, right? And so I always like to say I can, I will, and I must. Don't say I can't. Don't say maybe. Don't say think. Don't say try, right? Because those are the things that set us up. So anyway, don't forget that a gift that we all have, I mean, we can change our situation right now. So I challenge you today to think about the rest of the day. What's going on with you? What you're going to do differently, right? I mean, I got a host of stuff. I wish we had more time. I could tell you all the other noisy, crazy stuff that's running around in my head. So I'm in the gym, right? I'm recovering from all my chatter, right? So you will too. All right. So anyway, let me get to why we're really here today. Let me pull up her bio, and just a tremendous lady, right? I'm going to introduce you to my friend and our next guest, Ashly Balza, better known as the Aloe Care Mama. Ashly is a self-proclaimed skincare and self-care enthusiast who is obsessed with all things hydration, glow, and dewy skin. When she isn't pampering her skin, you will find her sipping her favorite coffee, brainstorming new ideas for her business, and homeschooling her 6 children. Wow. Woo. After her own skin battles and serious illness, her ultimate goal is to help everyone feel beautiful and confident in their own skin. And here's some powerful things that she's going to talk about. She appeared on two guests on Bathrobe Moments, Diamond Factor Podcast, Homeschool, Loft Podcast, panel speaker for homeschool moms. Man, that's big. And then let's get real. So, ladies and gentlemen, let me bring to the stage a woman that I admire, someone that we're going to have some fun with today, my friend, Ashly Balza.
Hello.
Hey, what's up, Ashly? How are you?
I am great. How are you?
Oh, doing well, my friend. You know, showing up, excited to chat with you today. So thank you for setting some time aside to join us today.
Well, thank you for having me. I really, really appreciate it.
Well, looking forward to it. You know, from our first chat some time ago. I mean, I know I read about the skincare things, but you're homeschooling 6 children. You're doing this self-care stuff and all this other things. I see you all the time. When do you rest?
That is a fantastic question. I have learned to rest. I have burned the candle at both ends for many years, especially during those early stages of motherhood and disrupted sleep. And now I have really, especially over the last 3 months or so, I've really prioritized, okay, midnight, 12:30, your butt is in bed. Whereas before it was 3 a.m., 4 a.m., sometimes even 5 a.m. that I was staying up until I'd sleep for a couple hours and then I'd get up and go about the rest of my day and rinse and repeat. So I've really started to prioritize, okay, you need to get to bed so you can be up in the morning and get your day started. So
that's a good one.
Yes.
I need to do that myself, right?
Oh, yeah.
So I like that you talk about reprioritize and burning the candle on both ends, right? Because 6 kids, homeschool, building your business, and all those things. Let's step back for a minute. How did you? There was a time. Let's talk about a time when you look back and you think, man, you never, you thought you could get there, but life was giving you a different message in your life. What was that like?
So I'd say by pregnancy number 3, life was a whole different thing. My husband and I were facing some marital issues, and I was very pregnant. And I can remember after that baby had been born, just getting up one night and going on a rant for everybody in the house. I had battled, I think, some postpartum baby blues after that pregnancy. And there was a lot of just nobody helps me around here. I'm doing everything myself. And a lot of that mom burnout and just not expressing what I truly needed, just expecting everybody to read my mind and know, like, hey, there's dishes in the sink, get this done. But instead of me saying, hey guys, can you do the dishes? Or again, just expressing what I needed, I just went off in an angry tyrant because I was so burned out from pregnancy to being a nursing mom, having 2 other kids, and it was just a lot. And that carried on throughout our marriage for 3 more pregnancies, and it continued to just fester and build and resentment and just all of that until baby number 6. And when you think, okay, you're going to deal with some things in your marriage, things get pushed under the rug where you've dealt with it, right? But you really never dealt with it. And then things really start to explode. And I think a lot of what happened after I had our last son, I think it was a culmination of all those years of holding on to that resentment and that anger. And it really came to a head. And I got sick and I ended up in the hospital and I almost died.
Wow.
And I think that was the turning point for me, especially. Now, I had high expectations of my husband after I was sick of, why aren't we making memories? Why are you working so much? Why aren't you paying attention to me? Like all of those me kind of things. But I wasn't necessarily expressing that to him in a positive way. I did express it, but it wasn't in a way that he could necessarily receive it. And I had to have a wake-up call, honestly, with a friend. After that illness, I went into almost a PTSD of that depressive state. I could find myself just randomly crying and thinking about how I wanted life to be different, but those expectations were so high. My husband was never going to meet those. And this friend of mine, he had said, Ashly, where does your value come from? Value is not found in your husband. Your value is found in your creator. And you need to find your value. And that was a big turning point for me on this journey. And that's really where the message began, was after that severe illness. And that's propelled me into where I am today. And you and I have a very a mutual mentor, and how she always says, life happens for you, not to you.
Not to you. Yes.
And
Absolutely.
that is something that I've had to remember even today. Of all of the little setbacks, it's for me, not to you.
Yes. You know, and I had to just think about that yesterday when I was in the car. You know, I shared a little bit before you came on about going down the rabbit hole about the next day and hadn't even gotten here yet. Things we can't control and how that happens, right? And just, hey, Geoff, remember, this is all a setup for something greater. So I got to back you up for a second, Ashly. I mean, you said some really powerful things. Thank you for sharing and coming in here and being raw. You know, you talked about resentment, you talked about anger, and listen, I've been on both sides of that, right? I'm married, and I know what happens when things go up. I mean, there's I guess what I'm working on getting out, right? Because is knowing how I know you now. There had to have been some real feelings about and when you look back at your behavior and you assess things, because this happens to a lot of people, how did you find grace in yourself? Right? Because I mean, I'm sure you didn't want to say and behave the way you did, as you kind of talked about at different times. So then that creates usually some reflection of ourselves in a negative way. So we put that on us, right? And we carry that. But for those out there that are probably in your space right now and not knowing how, like you shared about how to communicate your wants, right? Because I want you to talk about that later here. But how did you forgive yourself?
I think ultimately what happened after I had that conversation with that friend was really diving deeper into my faith and reading the scriptures on forgiveness and surrendering. I think we look at surrender as some kind of negative connotation, like we're just going to let things go, or we're going to allow a negative behavior, or like we look at surrender in a completely different way.
Right.
And when I think of surrender, I think of Jesus on the cross. And it really ultimately comes down to surrendering ourselves in those dark places and our sins and the things that we've done that we're not proud of, and ultimately asking forgiveness of ourselves.
Yeah.
And not just asking forgiveness from our spouse or anything like that, but ultimately it comes down to forgiving ourselves.
Yeah.
And saying we're not perfect. We're all broken, sinful humans living in a fallen world that ultimately need the grace of God and going to the feet of Jesus. And when all of that happened, it really dove me deeper into my faith, deeper into scripture, and just ultimately surrendering myself that I'm not a perfect human. I screw up. I make mistakes. And I think it also comes down to, especially if you have a spouse, that you're asking for forgiveness of them. Like just saying, like, I haven't been perfect. I've fallen. I've made mistakes. Can you forgive me? And I think we struggle to ask for forgiveness. We struggle to say, I'm sorry. I screwed up. That's a big thing. And again, it's not easy to do, but ultimately we have to. We really do, if we want to move forward. Because if we hang on to all of that, it just festers and it manifests into something that goes far beyond what we ever thought it could. And that could be presenting as disease or autoimmune or anything. Because you're creating a trigger response within your body. So you just have to let things go.
No doubt about it. I love that. And surrender is a word that I've learned to understand over the years, like you said, where, it's a necessary part of change, right? It's a necessary part of acceptance, right? You have to be able to accept your role and the behaviors that you had. And then because you won't be accepted by others until you accept yourself. You won't be forgiven from others until you forgive yourself, right? And the surrendering piece, I've had it. I always call it the white flag. The raise the flag. I give up, right? I need help. Good stuff. You were going to say
weakness. And I think that's what people will associate with the word surrender is you're weak. It's not weakness. It's strength.
It takes strength. It takes strength, and it gives you strength, right? It takes the strength to do that, but then you gain the strength from living in that space, and you talked about that. And then the resentments, they just stack. Unresolved resentments end up blowing up. I don't care. And they show up on outside of us and internally.
Yes.
Right. I believe our body responds to the burden that we put on it. So you're doing this, and you're making grace with your husband. Now you got these kids, and life's starting to turn for you. You're connected with your God, and your life is good. And any hiccups along the way, that because things show up sometimes that we can share and talk about.
Yeah. I mean, I think with life, there's always hiccups.
Yeah.
And it's really just how you navigate through those. I think the biggest difference and the biggest thing that my husband and I have had to learn is really that communication piece. I feel like we've always had good communication, but there's always room for improvement, right?
Yeah.
So it's really about keeping those communication lines open. And if you can't necessarily communicate how you're feeling verbally with your spouse or partner, it's more so, okay, can you do it via text? But of course, text gets misconstrued all the time. But I think it's presenting it in some way, however that looks, wherever you're at. It's just making what you need known and really just keeping those lines open so you each can be vulnerable with each other and you can have that open dialect. When we feel like we need to squash ourselves with our spouse, or we can't verbalize that because we're afraid of what they're going to think or what they're going to say, do you really have healthy communication if you can't express who you truly are, and you can't be at your best and you can't be at your worst? Like, you really have to look at that. And again, it goes into having that conversation. It starts with the conversation. And sometimes it gets ugly, but ultimately those ugly conversations sometimes are what you need to resolve the conflict and resolve the situation. And then you can come back together of, I love you, I appreciate you, I value you. So it really comes down to, like I said, that communication piece.
No, you're so spot on, and I think of my wife and I, right? Because hey, listen, communication is something that I have to work on. She has to work on, and keeping things in is never a good thing, right? So as you learn how to communicate, you're both, I like to use this term, kind of suck at it, and you're going to do some things that create more turmoil as you grow. But like you said, you do it anyway, and then you come back together, right? I mean, it's kind of like I'd rather you scream at me. Don't scream too loud. If I've ignored something that you're trying to say, if I've done something wrong to you that I don't see, and you've not been used to standing up for yourself, right? A lot of folks we're not used to standing up for self. Right. And we're serving and men and women, and we find ourselves in places where all that stacking of resentments blows up. Right. So so people that are at that point, you're going to probably be terrible expressing yourself at first, but please don't stop. Right. Yeah. Please keep going. Please, and if you're in a relationship, then both of you remember that, hey, it's a beginning. It's a new beginning if you haven't learned to communicate like you're talking about, because it takes guts, right?
Oh, yeah. And I think the big thing, too, is you will get more of what you give. So when we are able to surrender to our own wants and desires, and we can give to our spouse, we'll eventually get that same thing back. So I think when it comes down to that word submission, everybody hates that word submission, right? Especially when you think Bible times, that the wife is to submit to the husband. When we think of the word submission, we're not talking making yourself itty bitty. It's just the authority of the husband, the authority of God, right? Submitting ourselves in alignment with that. And if we're going to submit as a wife to our husbands, that means we still need to give. And it's, I hear so often, well, if he would just give me this in return, like, because we're putting ourselves in that selfish manner. But when we can openly submit and give to our husbands, we're going to get the things that we're seeking in return.
Right.
But we're so consumed by self. And yes, that's interesting when you look at that self-care piece, right?
Yeah.
But it's more of in that selfless manner when we're going to take care of ourselves so we can pour out to others, right? Because you hear all the time, you can't pour from an empty cup. Now, God is our vessel. He's going to fill that cup back up, right? And sometimes we do need to be selfish when it comes to our self-care and reading scripture, digging into the Bible, taking a mental break from all the things that are thrown at us during the day. But again, when we're filling that vessel up, we're able to pour it out to other people. And that includes our spouse. Yeah. But it's selfish when we're expecting our spouse to fill us, our spouse to do it all. And then we're not willing to give in return because we don't get enough. Yeah. That's the selfish piece of it. So it really depends on how you're looking at the self-care piece too. Are you looking at it in a selfless way, or are you looking at it in a selfish way? And that, I think, is where society comes into the whole self-care is selfish aspect. That's just my opinion. But self-care isn't selfish when you're doing it to be able to pour out. Right. Okay. If you're doing it to just be selfish and it's all about me, then you better reevaluate.
That's a whole different thing there.
Right. That is the difference in that. Again, that's my opinion. Take it for what you will, but that's how I visualize it. If I'm running on E and I'm cranking at everybody around me, that means that I need to be taking care of my own mental well-being as well as my internal soul. So then I'm not like that with those that are around me.
Yeah. That's so important to people kind of whisper it or a little ashamed to say, hey, I need to do some things for myself, right? In relationships and you know, we're so used to serving, or we're so used to working in the brokenness and you know, not being brave enough to say, hey, I need to do something different. I love you. I love our kids. I love our family. But I need to find out how I can be of service to me so that I can give back. I mean, so powerful and self-care. So I encourage it, and everybody, you know, we've got to find the time to do it. We've got to find what works for us and continue to do that. So what as we kind of wind down, man, it's already time to quit. We just got started, I feel like, man. So you've been really dropping some real fire here, Ashly. So what do you tell people as we kind of come to the end of this? What do you tell people that are like that are reluctant in a situation, that are scared to speak up and to if they're in a relationship or family members, or you know, they're in that, because everybody's not saying, oh yeah, go ahead, I understand, I want to get better. I mean, there's some people that like things the way they are.
Right. I would say pay attention to those warning signs that your body starts to give you. If you're burning the candle at both ends and all of a sudden you're feeling kind of off, or you're snapping at those that are around you, or you're exhausted, or you're starting to get sick a lot, whether it be a cold or you're noticing that something is not right. And pay attention to those warning signs. Because your body will give you those little red flags all over the place. When you don't pay attention to them, you will be forced one way or another. It will manifest itself, like I said before, as an autoimmune disease. It will manifest as something as terrible as cancer. Let's be honest.
Oh,
Our
yeah.
bodies adapt to the environment they're put in. So
No
if
doubt.
you're not paying attention to those little things that your body starts to say, hey, 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 you need to take a step back. You need to rest. On days that I end up with a migraine, I take that as, nope, we're not working today. We're
Right.
going to rest, because
Yeah.
I've been going nonstop or burning the candle at both ends and not paying attention to what my body is telling me.
Yes.
So when you start paying attention to that, that is my hope for you, is that you avoid that hospital stay, that severe illness,
Yeah.
because you took the time to say, hey, okay, we got to take a step back. We're going to say no. The word we can really give to our children when they're little and as they grow, but we have a hard time to say no to the adults in our life, or we have a hard time to say no to that commitment. Because, oh my gosh, I'm going to feel so guilty if I don't do this thing. But in reality, you're telling yourself, oh, I really don't want to do it. So you should have said no in the first place, right?
That's right.
How often
That's right.
have we done that? But like I said, it's really just paying attention to those warning signs that your body is dropping you, so you can avoid that burnout ultimately.
Right.
Because when you're burned out, you're not good to anybody else. You may think you are, but you're really not. You're not productive. You're not a positive impact to other people that you can be.
That's right. I mean, you're really just, and hey, Alex saying hello to us, Steph saying yes to you. Way to go with this. So I love how you put all that together, Ashly. And I have a whole session around learning how to say no comfortably. You know, being uncomfortable, saying no until you're comfortable. So you're so important that you say that. So how do people get a hold of you? What do you got going on as we kind of wind this thing up? You know?
So the easiest way to find me is on Facebook, social media. Facebook is the easiest place, but you can go to Skincare with Ashly. Make sure you spell it ASHLY, skincarewithashly.com. You can download my free ebook. You can also connect with, every month I put on 7-day challenges. I've got a 7-day challenge going on right now about Ageless Glow, an anti-aging challenge. And you can join, you can get a guide, whole thing. It's all on skincarewithashly.com.
And that's Skincare with Ashly, ASHLY.com.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. I'm going to drop it in the chat for you. And folks, I encourage you to do that. And Ashly, man, it's been a blast seeing you today and lighting up the screen. And I mean, I got pages of notes here to remind myself of this session. So really great job. Thank you for you know, coming here and helping out, right? I mean, people that hear this message, man, wonderful job.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Until we meet again, my friend, you take care of yourself. All right.
Thank you. You too.
All right. Bye-bye. All right. Hey, so, man, I told you, I mean, I would encourage you to reach out, you know, to her in the skincare, Ashly.com. You can see she's well-rounded. You know, it's got all types of things that she can help you with when it comes to self-care. And we talked a little bit about that, about paying attention to the warning signs in our body. We all have them, right? And men, look, we need to stop being knuckleheads. If you haven't gotten physicals, go get one. Get it on a regular basis. Go get checked out. And ladies, the same, because our body, it heals itself, and we inflict wounds on ourselves by our behaviors and what we keep and what we stuff in, right? So, I mean, she talked about a lot of good things, making what you need known. Man, that's a good one. Make sure that you walk away from here, and if you're in a relationship and you've been stuffing things and keeping them and pretending like the person should know what you're going through and they really don't, you have to learn how to make what you need known. Man, I know I had the fellas. I mean, there's a whole session around that. If you're struggling and you don't think no one's ever taught you, man, if you're looking for that kind of direction, I could help you with that, boy, because I had to learn the hard way that they don't read our minds. We need to express what it is that we need, as she's talked about. doing that as well. So really just a lot of good stuff. So I want to just close as always. I wrote this down and check this out, right? Don't confuse movement with progress, because you can run in place and not get anything done. So when you're talking about, hey, Geoff, I'm working on, conversations with myself and nothing's really changing. I ask, are you just talking about it? Are you really paying attention to what you're saying? Are you then pausing for a moment like we talk about? And then are you really replacing it with some of the things that we share with you? So I ask you that, right? Because are you moving forward, and who are you taking with you? Are you moving away from the stinking thinking? Are you living in your purpose? Whatever that might be, are you chasing that dream, right? No more stinking thinking. And have you made things better with the skills that you've been given for others? So I tell you, subscribe to this channel, share this message, go back and listen to what she had to say today. And if you're looking for, we still have opportunities in the fourth quarter for speaking engagements around in businesses and schools with the power of the comeback, right? And the skill sets necessary to achieve your greatness. Please reach out to me. I'm that guy for you if you're looking for that. And be on the lookout. We've got a community that we're going to be introducing to you in the fourth quarter. That's going to be a great place to stay. It's going to be a great place to grow. Going to be a great place to help you learn to stop the stinking thinking on a regular basis. Step into your purpose. And remember, there's no better time than now to do something different in your life. There's no better time than now to attach yourself to a community, baby, that's about the power of the comeback. There's no better time than now for you to say, enough is enough. Let's do something different. Hey, listen, got to go. Catch you on the next episode. Appreciate everybody. Subscribe, share this message. Check out Ashly. Don't miss the opportunity. We'll see you later.